Do you feel like you've been given the raw deal in the gig economy workforce? Well, apparently, the CEO of Postmates also feels this way.
Xbox, Twitter, Uber,
Postmates,
Netflix, MoviePass,
Google,
eBay,
DoorDash,
Apple, Amazon, Airbnb,
The Apptrepreneur. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and Postmates. Postmates is one of the few gig economy apps that I actually still do a little work for. Not gonna lie, me and Katie, particularly since we can do it together, I can drive, she can deliver it. We actually do Postmates together, we listen to the music, we kind of consider it, a fun way to spend time together, and we listen to music. That said, neither of us will ever come close to saying it's great money. Usually, if we hit our targets, like we hit the daily quest goals, we get money for a Broadway show or something to see. Easy. But I still remember making a lot more doing this 3-4 years ago. Whenever it first started, I remember making a lot more. And well, apparently the Postmates CEO kind of agrees with me because he has penned an open letter for CNN called "Gig Workers Deserve a Better Deal Than What We Have Given Them." And we're going to talk about this as well as what I think is inspiring this. So, here's what it says. And by the way, this is the CEO right there, Bastian Lehman. The gig economy faces challenges today that technology alone cannot fix. On-demand delivery and transportation has provided unprecedented flexibility to millions of workers and turbocharged small businesses and local economies. But recent strikes and calls for better pay and benefits underscore the need for change. So do the conflicting signals from courts, regulators, and lawmakers about whether gig workers should be considered traditional employees or independent contractors, or if they should be under a new category. Personally, I think new category, but that's just me. We need a comprehensive approach that ends this confusion and empowers gig workers without taking away their flexibility or ability to innovate. I agree. Legislators in California are debating a bill known as AB 5, which I'm pretty sure that's why he's writing this, that would reclassify gig workers as employees. My fellow CEOs at Uber and Lyft have offered a different framework with new benefits and protections for rideshare drivers. As CEO of the company that pioneered on-demand delivery and has one of the nation's largest fleet of on-demand delivery workers, and who is planning to go public soon, I believe we should build on the best of these ideas and go further by including more workers beyond just ride sharing. Carving out narrow exemptions for specific sectors in AB 5 isn't enough. Instead, it's time for a new deal that brings together companies and workers from across the on-demand delivery and transportation industry and offers a new safety net and far-reaching solutions for the future of work. Gig companies don't have a long history of working with organized labor, but the way forward depends on us viewing unions as working partners, not sparring partners. Our business models may be new, but labor organizers have grappled with the challenges facing independent workers like janitors and port workers for decades, and there's a lot we can learn from them. So far, so good. We also have to work with policymakers at every level, including our home state of California, where legislators are trying to chart a way forward that's true to our pro-worker and pro-innovation values. Together, under the leadership of Governor Gavin Newsom, we have the opportunity to create a model for the rest of the country. Here are 4 principles that should guide our attempts to define the future work in the gig economy. 1. Give workers a voice. First, every gig worker deserves a voice in their future and transparency from companies about pay and benefits. Postmates recently saw the importance of this kind of transparency firsthand after updating our pay system to encourage more drivers to make more deliveries in the same vicinity, regardless of distance. Some drivers said they were disappointed and uncertain about the changes and worried they might be paid less, despite the fact that more frequent deliveries can ultimately mean more cumulative earnings over time. We quickly met with labor leaders to discuss how we can improve transparency and cooperation. We're also working with our Fleet Advisory Board, which we launched last year to give drivers more influence over decisions made at Postmates headquarters to better explain the new system to all our drivers and establish better ways to notify workers of changes in the future. For me, the experience underscored that gig companies can't hide behind algorithms that determine pay and route decisions. We have to be open about our policies and give workers a real voice in shaping them. More companies should create worker forums like our Fleet Advisory Board. For example, fleet members have encouraged us to enact new product solutions rolling out soon, which are more inclusive of people who have a non-binary gender identity, such as eliminating the requirement that new drivers check a box identifying themselves as either male or female. I don't know how that's I don't know. I don't know how that's terribly important. I mean, yeah, in terms of like, it's not money. That's what they want. They want more money. All workers should have a way to air grievances, appeal disciplinary actions, and advocate for reforms. And more broadly, states should establish commissions to guide industry-wide standards on benefits, conflict resolution, and protection from discrimination, which would provide certainty for workers, many of whom use multiple gig platforms. Well, okay, I don't disagree with any of that. I mean, yeah, I guess it makes you feel more comfortable. They shouldn't be punished without representation. I actually agree with all that. Pay at least the minimum wage. Second, all workers deserve decent pay and all companies should meet state minimum wage requirements. Yeah, you should at least make minimum. My whole thing with this has always... Actually, this is kind of what I have been believing for a while. I've always felt like, the first ride should guarantee you minimum wage. And then after that, it's all gravy. Like, you shouldn't be working a whole hour, make one delivery or one ride or whatever, and then you get paid $3. No. I think minimum wage should be required, provided you at least work the full hour. Gig workers are paid by the task, not by the hour, but the bottom line should be the same. If you work for a full hour, you should earn at least a minimum wage. I love it. We need a sector-wide earnings floor mandated by the state. A few we've shared directly with Governor Newsom. This is further than some companies are willing to go right now, but it's both the right thing to do and it's a smart thing for the future in our industry. We should also take seriously the criticism concern coming from organizations like Restaurant Opportunity Centers United, which has slammed some gig companies for using workers' tips as substitutes for decent base pay. The critics are right. This is simply unacceptable. Tips should always be on top and always go 100% into workers' pockets. No competitive advantage should come at the expense of the workers. Now, here's the interesting thing. I don't think Postmates actually takes tip money, at least... I don't think they take tip money now. At one point, it was a little... I don't know. I can't prove they're taking tip money now. But that is clearly a shot at DoorDash, who continues to do that. Think bigger on benefits. Third, gig companies should pay into a robust industry-wide fund to ensure workers have access to benefits like on-the-job accident insurance, career development programs, disability and long-term retirement savings, and healthcare. We're already seeing some companies develop successful new benefit models. For example, Thumbtack, a company that helps consumers find local service professionals, has partnered with the National Domestic Workers Alliance to let customers contribute directly to workers' healthcare and life insurance. Postmates has partnered with Stride and the Workers Lab to enroll our fleet in healthcare plans, help them file their taxes, and pilot new ways to access cash on demand in the case of a personal emergency. But we need to think bigger. An industry-wide benefits fund that tech companies like Postmates pay into would provide security and upward mobility to workers who have a wide range of circumstances and needs. On any given day, a gig worker might deliver for Postmates, drive for Uber, and walk dogs on Rover. Some use cars while others walk or ride on their bicycles, and some are supplementing income from other jobs. To better understand and meet the variety of worker needs, we need to improve how we collect, manage, and share data, and companies should share more data about the size, scope, and habits of their gig workforce with our labor union partners as well. While we move forward as an industry, we should also advocate for ambitious reforms on the national level that bolster the safety net like Medicare for all and accept the tax rates that will make it possible. And clarify rules, finally. Fourth, regulators and lawmakers should step up and clarify the rules governing the gig economy for workers and companies alike. The federal government and state courts have issued contradictory guidance about when gig workers should be classified as employees. Different states are taking different approaches. This confusion doesn't help anyone. We need clear rules. Consistency applies. As the economy changes, so must the way we think about work, but the need for economic opportunity, security, and flexibility will never go away. My fellow tech leaders have a choice to make. Either we can resist calls for change and watch our industry fail to achieve its full potential, or we can step up and pursue a new deal that offers certainty and dignity for gig workers across America. That's it. And by the way, this is a very well-written opinion piece. I applaud it. But why was it written? Well, now we got to go to the other side. Postmates CEO's labor values aren't as progressive as they seem. This is from Eater. And it says, on Thursday, Postmates co-founder and CEO Bastian Lehman published an op-ed on CNN titled "Gig Workers Deserve a Better Deal Than We Have Given Them," calling for a new deal that brings together workers and companies across the gig company for the future of work. In the op-ed, Lehman writes about the on-demand delivery and transportation companies, Postmates, which is headed towards an IPO, Uber, Lyft, etc., should start treating organized labor as worker partners. We are not going to go through all of this because we just went through it. On the surface, this call for a new deal that offers certainty and dignity for gig workers across America sounds impressively progressive, with Lehman coming across as enlightened compared to, say, Instacart CEO, who a few months ago was forced to apologize for tip theft. And we've talked about that before on here. But a closer read makes it apparent that Lehman's piece hits all the same beats as an op-ed authored by the heads of Lyft and Uber, which asked California to compromise on the state's AB5 bill that would make it harder for companies like theirs to classify workers as independent contractors and thus cost companies a lot more money just in a slightly more sympathetic package. AB5, which passed the state assembly in May, is now up for debate on the Senate, codifies California Supreme Court's May 2018 Dynamex ruling that used we're not going to go through all that again. Lehman's op-ed is carefully, artfully ambiguous when it comes to AB5. He doesn't explicitly state whether he is for or against it, I'm assuming against, but instead suggests that AB5 isn't enough, framing his proposal as a new deal that goes further. This creates the impression that his proposition is radically more progressive, when in reality the substance is virtually indistinguishable from the points set forth by the demonstrably anti-AB5 Uber and Lyft. Postmates, when contacted for comment on the article, made this company's stance on AB5 clearer in similar couched language. A statement from the company spokesperson reads, "We immensely respect Assembly Member Gonzalez Fletcher's leadership on AB5 and the Senate Judiciary Chairman's role in addressing issues of the future of work, and as Governor Newsom confronts its first future of work test as a state, we are committed to working through a legislative process that does not seek simply to carve out or exemption form Dynamex, but rather one that keeps labor and industry at the table to balance new standards of gig worker voice, pay, and benefits with this type of workers' flexibility never before seen in historical employment law in this country. In the same way that you cannot sign up for a shift at Starbucks at 8 a.m., then run across the street 2 pizzas to make a latte, and then come back an hour later to resume your shift at Starbucks only to go clock out because you need to complete a homework assignment, the level of flexibility realized in truly on-demand work is valued by over 80% of our fleet in California. Our commitment is to raising the standard of worker benefits and balance them with worker flexibility," which, again, I don't actually disagree with them. I think a lot of people, they are very, very concerned with their flexibility. That's one of the reasons they've put up with bad pay for so long. The passing of AB5 would fundamentally disrupt the business models of gig companies like Postmates, Uber, and Lyft and DoorDash, which are predicated on the low cost of independent labor. Such companies have justified the low wages and lack of benefits given to their gig workers by touting the job's flexibility, despite the fact that labor laws don't prevent companies from offering employees flexibility. As Postmates does in the above statement, or by maintaining that such jobs were never meant to be full-time. On a similar note of justification, in Lehman's op-ed, he defends a much criticized recent decision to tweak Postmates' payment rates and remove a $4 minimum per job guarantee by claiming that more frequent deliveries can ultimately mean more cumulative earnings over time. Yeah, that's a page right out of Uber. Yeah, well, you'll make less money, but you'll make more money because you'll be busier. That's an Uber playbook. The reality is that more and more of the American workforce is joining the gig economy, whether by choice or lack therefore, and smaller scale fixes like a tech company contributed communal benefits fund are not the same as lasting structural changes that come from legislation. Weaponizing progressive sounding rhetoric in the fight against a workers' right bill and using the strawman of flexibility to justify is disingenuous. And it's not fooling disingenuous, and it's not fooling anyone. So here's the thing. I'm going to give his op-ed a little bit more credit than I have with Uber and Lyft because he actually addressed payment. He addressed they should at least be making minimum wage. Whether they would actually go above minimum wage or not, I don't know. But hey, he actually admitted that pay is a huge problem. And yeah, I truly believe he's right in this. He's in damage control mode. All the companies are. They don't want AB5 to pass. And while I would ideally like AB5 to fail and for all the companies to basically, pull their stuff together and start doing the right thing, if it failed, I know they would just go back to doing what they were doing before, which means technically if AB5 fails, we need to work on another piece of legislation until we find one that does work for people and, holds these companies accountable. But this is why all of a sudden you're hearing about all these CEOs saying, hey, we need to do better because they don't want AB5 to pass. And, the thing is, I see all them proposing ideas. I don't see them actually getting in the seat and figuring things out. Like, if they were to start showing progress, like, hey, we're working on this, we're working on this, we're working on this, we don't need AB5. If they could make the whole concept of AB5 useless before it even goes to the governor's office, then maybe AB5 won't be necessary. But no, they're all taking a wait-and-see approach. Will AB5 pass? What will happen? And in the meantime, they're saying we got to do better. We're going to do better. Trust us to do better, in hopes that such rhetoric will convince lawmakers to ultimately not pass it, which I think they now see through it. Now, I don't know too much about Lehman himself. I have not covered him as extensively as I have Kalanick and Karashahi. Just on the surface level, again, he actually mentioned pay. And that goes a long way in my book, because no one else wants to talk about pay except the drivers, of course. So he gets a little bit more credit in my book just for that reason. But do I think this is a whole lot different from what Uber and Lyft are saying? Not really. I think it's about the same. We're just, I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I personally don't think AB5 is going to pass. I think Governor Newsom is not going to sign it. However, I do believe we will see another form of the bill, and at one point, one of them will pass. And in the meantime, the drivers get more and more restless with each passing day. So anyway, that's where we're going to end this one. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices are getting just a little down, check out the Get Upside app below. It's totally free, but you get cash back on every gas purchase. If you want more content from me that's a little different than what's on this channel, check out my other YouTube channels, Kevin T. Rodriguez, the Apptrepreneur Vlogs, and Autograph Hound. And finally, if you want to talk to me or other fellow couriers out there, check us out on Facebook at the Apptrepreneur Hangouts. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.